Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. I did it again. We hope you enjoyed our latest 5-minute clinic where Alan and I sat down and got clear on clarity. See what I did there? For episode number 234, we were lucky enough to sit down in person with Brant Pinvidic at his California home. He actually, after the interview, which we did, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see in his movie theater, he actually took us out back and cooked us hibachi on his hibachi grill. He literally was flicking, was it shrimp? No, it was steak.
Shrimp into our mouths.
Yeah.
And steak as well. It was amazing.
It was a whole thing.
So one of the things I want to say about Brant, he made a funny that I thought was hilarious. He said, so his business is called Reject Average, and that's how he lives his life, Reject Average. He's like, mini horses are useless animals, and I have 4 of them. So he's just such an excessive, playful, fun guy. And he talked a lot about not only the grind, but fulfillment along the way. And basically, a lot of us think about what we have to do to get successful, but we don't know what we're going to do once we're successful. So I think this is a fascinating episode.
Yeah, I think for Alan and myself, it was different because we're always talking about high achievement and performance and success habits. And the one thing Brant wanted us to take away was make sure you know what you'll do when you catch the thing.
Right.
And make sure you're not always setting the finish line further and further, because that's what he was doing, and he ended up being very unhappy. And now his main focus and goal is to have fun, and we had a blast. This was one of my favorites for sure, just because getting to see Brant behind the scenes was amazing, and he's such a genuine good dude.
And the best storyteller I've ever seen.
Yeah, so we hope you will enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I'm looking forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we are in a different setup. Again, if you're listening, you won't see that, but we are hanging out with the one and only Brant Pinvidic. We had you on episode number 82.
I love that episode.
That was
That might have been my favorite episode of your guys' podcast.
I hope so. I hope so.
One of our favorites, too.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting us into your home.
Yeah, no
and
problem.
allowing us to set up here.
Yeah.
For the listeners who didn't hear episode number 82, who are you? What are you like? What do you do? And we're gonna get into the deeper part of that. But who are you? Who is Brant?
Well, I'm Brant Pinvidic, and I am a producer director by trade in Hollywood, TVs and movies, lots of fun stuff like that. But lately, I've been transforming into the business community. I do a lot of coaching, speaking, consulting on messaging and how to simplify your message and how to deliver the most value you have in 3 minutes or less. Hence the book I just wrote, and now I'm an author, I guess, called The 3-Minute Rule, which basically shows you how to convey everything of value about your business, product, or service clearly and concisely and accurately in 3 minutes or less. And I show people how to use Hollywood storytelling technique to simplify their message and lead their audience. So.
That's something we'll have to pick your brain on, because we're
right.
not good at that at all.
Listen, everybody's got their skills, right? And pitching, presenting, and taking all the information that you have and what you know and translating that into someone else's understanding is a very difficult skill, and it's taken me 20 years to learn how to say it in 3 minutes. So.
Okay.
My goodness.
respect
We
that.
set the intention recently to basically ask one of our coaches, Dave Meltzer. He has a show called The Elevator Pitch. And it's funny because I think we're going to ask you how we could pitch the Hyperconscious podcast at some point in 3 minutes or less. And I can't wait to read this book. One of the questions that I have for you is you, like us,
Yes.
used to grind really hard, work really hard, really long hours.
Yes. Oh man, the grind. I see you guys, and it hurts my heart watching you guys. I know it well.
And then so you had some really, really big wins and
Yeah.
obviously many losses along the way, fail forward
Yeah,
type
of course.
moments. But now you've transitioned into, Kevin and I asked you your number one strategic priority walking in here to see if we could try to help you. And you
Yeah.
said to have more fun.
That's right.
Can you explain why that shifted for you and kind of what your framework around life versus business is?
Yeah, and listen, I can tell you the exact moment when it really shifted. I was in a big deal with this huge company that specializes in, longevity and pharmaceuticals. Big company, very wealthy individual. He has a home here on the top of Sunset Plaza, the most spectacular thing I've ever seen. He rents it all year round. He's here maybe 20 days a year, right?
Right.
And it's that kind of thing. It's got to be $30 million. I don't know. It's unbelievable. So our very first meeting, I go up there and it's spectacular, but you're trying to be professional, right? Like it's the first time we've met in person, and I'm trying not to Google and goggle at his house, right? So it's out of the corner of your eyes. You're looking at this view, going like, "What the hell is this?" Right? And I'm looking
We
at
know
the
the
side.
feeling.
I'm looking at the side of the wall, and I realize like those are all doors. Like this entire wall opens up to this view in the infinity pool. Anyways, so very professional meeting, and it goes very well. And then I start to meet him a couple more times. We become more personal. And now we have almost like a personal relationship. So I'm at the house maybe for the fourth time, and I finally say, like, listen, you got to show me this house. I mean, this thing is so spectacular. I can't even. Greg, give me a tour. He's like, oh, yeah, you want to see the house? No problem. So he starts showing me around the house. And every single room I go into, it's like, oh, my God. If I had this house, I would have this here, and I'd put my thing there, and I'd have a party here, and I'd be on the infinity pool, and every morning and like, you can see your life. In every room, in the wine cellar and the theater and like everything, right? And you can see what you would be like in that house. And it was so inspiring. And I got in the master bedroom, which was the most spectacular thing you've ever seen. And I swear to God, I could feel myself like waking up in the morning, feeling more refreshed, feeling ready to go in the morning, like a big stretch and be like, okay, let's take on the day. Like I felt like that's how I'd be in the morning, right? And then the single moment was, I turned to him and I was saying something like, this is just so amazing. I can't believe this is where you live. And he did this one gesture that rocked me. And he basically just shrugged his shoulders and kind of like looked the other way. And he's like, yeah, it's cool. Like it was a non-issue. And the craziest thing was, the reason that was so impactful was just the day before I had another producer, just like you guys, come out to interview me. And as I said to you guys, like, hey, you want to come out to the house? No problem. I don't travel that much anymore.
Right.
And so he came out and I gave him a tour of the house. And like you guys, I showed you a little bit of the house. And we go to the backyard, and as you saw, there's horses in the backyard, and it's unique. Okay. And he was like, oh my God, I would be here. Oh, this would be so bad. And he was doing that exact thing. And what was I doing? I was like shrugging. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's been great. Like whatever. Right. And I realized in that moment, I was like, holy crap. Like if I could ever afford a $30 million house, I'm going to feel exactly like I do in my $3 million house. And that really affected me, because I never, ever dreamed when I was growing up in Canada that I'd be able to live the lifestyle I have now. My top end dream was quite a few steps back from this. And I never felt like I made it, or that I was wealthy in so many ways. I just never felt like that. And even today, like in Hollywood and the friends and the people I run in, like I'm poor. Like that's just all there is to it. I'm not that wealthy. Like, and I say a lot of time in my keynotes, I say, I am not as rich and famous as you think I am. Like that's the perception. That's fine. But in the real world, it's not real. But moving the goalposts at every stage of life on what wealth and success is a surefire way to never reach wealth and success. And like I said to you guys, like if you could go back 10 years and see where you are today, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe we made it. And like, you guys don't feel like that. And that's what's crazy.
Yeah. So I actually made a teaser clip of that exact part of the first podcast. And now hearing you say it again makes me question, like, For you, I asked you this earlier. When you were a producer, was your goal to serve others, or was that like, did you get
No.
right? So
Who does that?
Do
Nobody
you think,
does that.
Do you think serving others is a key to happiness as well as having fun?
I mean, yes and no. Like
Okay.
that's a great buzzword. It sounds great. Yeah, something's gonna be great. But you know what? That's impossible to do until you get your own oxygen mask on, right? And no matter what, I speak a lot to high schools. I have a big program in high schools and teaching entrepreneurship in high schools. And it's like
Nice.
when I ask them what's the definition of success and what do you guys want to success, they talk about that, serving others and being happy. And it's like, yeah, well, you need a house and you got to have a car. Like, let's be serious. We live in a world where you need financial success to do the things you want. And if you don't have financial success, if you don't reach a certain level of financial success, it's really hard to find other areas. Now, that's not to say it doesn't happen. I've met lots of whitewater rafting guides who don't have any money, but they whitewater raft for 6 months of the year, and then they snowmobile guide for 6 months of the year, and they're happy. I get it, right? But in the real world, like, I wanted to make money. I wanted to like have nice things and do the things I wanted. And once you get to that point, the problem is that your definition of what those things are keeps changing. So you never feel like you have them. And if you keep doing that, you'll never find the ability to help others, to reach out, to do all the things that you think you want to do in those moments. Because you're moving the goalposts. It's just awful.
I think one of the most interesting things is being results oriented is important to create a lifestyle. And like you said, you need money. But the fulfillment piece, where does fulfillment come in? So I have a framework that I use:
Yes.
joy, happiness, and fulfillment. So joy is being in the process of doing something you love.
Yep.
So like you in your retreats.
Yes.
Right. Then you've got happiness, which is result reliant. If I succeed and win, then I'll be happy. That dopamine hit.
Sure.
The third is fulfillment, which I think comes from serving something greater than yourself. What is your take on that framework? And then where do you get fulfillment now in your life?
Here's the thing, like, I think that's great. Again, it's a little buzzwordy for me. Like, it's in a practical person's world, it's like all of that kind of rolls into winning for me. It's like the reason why we get so stuck in work and the reason why we get so like focused, men particularly, because we're basically cavemen most of all, and we're just so task and goal oriented. It's so silly, right? Like we haven't evolved very well, but our sense of winning, of accomplishment, of taking on a task and doing well drives pretty well everything else. And that's what's the issue, is why you find wealthy people who make millions and millions of dollars and can't stop working. Why do they do that? Is because the only thing that gives them the sense of winning and success is when they're in that office, when they're on that phone, when they're sending that email, when they're in that meeting, right? And it's because, like the Forbes article I wrote, which is, we plan for success and we strategize about it, but we don't prepare for it and we don't practice it. So you guys are super amateurs at being successful. And up until a couple of years ago, so was I. I'm not a professional yet, but I'm getting pretty close, because I'm as good taking a weekend off and hanging out with the kids as I am when I'm going to cook you guys dinner tonight. Like, I will do that at the highest level as much as I did ever at work. Like, I do things at the highest level now.
Right.
I try to win every situation. And I'm training my body and my mind and physiologically to appreciate winning and feeling successful in any scenario. And that's really hard to do because I haven't practiced it my entire life. It's always been at the office.
Wow.
I guess I don't know how this question is going to work, but if you didn't set the original goals, do you think you ever would be where you are now and have learned the lesson that that's not the way to win?
Right.
I mean, no, because that's what you have to do. You have to set those goals, right? But goals and future and big things you're thinking about it's all like a soup of information, right? It's like your day-to-day is what really counts. And people ask, should I have big goals or small goals? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're heading a direction anyways. So picture big goals, picture small goals, whatever. You got to get through today and the next hour and the next 5 hours. So what are you doing that's pushing you towards what you want and what you want to achieve and what you think will be success? That's fine. And I have an exercise where I have people like, and I'll do this with you guys. What does success for you look like in 2 years? 2 years from now, when you come back to visit,
Right.
what would it look like for you? What would have happened in your life? What would you have right now?
more financial freedom.
Right. And you could write, and if I had my workbook, I'd hand it to you, but like you could write those goals down. There's a certain financial goal. And I would have you go deeper, like financial, what would be your net worth? How many would you have made? Like I'd get you to go detailed on that.
Right.
Like what would you be married? Would you would you have a successful relationship? Okay. Like what are your friends? Do they think you're great? Do you have more friends that think you're even better? Like all of the things in life that you would consider successful, that if you could write those down and frame them, and if they all came true and a genie came out, you'd be like, yes. Okay.
Right.
That's great. You're moving towards us. And I would say, okay, well, what does success look for you like in 1 year then? If that's your 2 year, what does 1 year look like?
Right.
Okay, what does 1 month look like? And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I can't really come up with a big giant goal for 1 month. And it's like, okay, then give me a goal for 1 week.
Right.
What would have to happen between now and next week for you to feel successful about this week? Right? And then if you start to write things like that down, you're like, oh, okay, well, these are like achievable things that are in my wheelhouse. And then I go, what about a day? What would you have to do? What would have to happen tomorrow for you to feel successful in that day? For you to feel like that day is a success? And you start doing that, and in 2 years, you'll be like, wow, I crushed all of those things.
That's fire.
That is
That's
fire.
absolute
And
fire.
in 2 years, you'll actually feel successful as opposed to getting there and being like, oh, I still need more. Now I need more things, and you're to the next thing. And that's just the reality of the world. And like, if you can train yourself to figure out what success would be like and what winning would look like for you tomorrow, then you'll actually do things to get there. And that pattern sticks with you. You guys, look at the size of your arms. Okay? You guys understand patterns and patterns of work.
Right.
Okay? You put in the efforts today. Do your arms grow an inch in 1 day?
No.
Well, what the hell? So you guys went to the gym for the last 2 years, every day, every other day, and ate and had carry on your giant things of water to put an inch on your arms and your biceps, and you didn't get a reward every single day?
Oh, we did. We love it.
Yeah, I know you love it, but it's like the reward isn't there. But you live with certainty. I go to the gym.
Right.
I hammer curl. Things are gonna go well.
Right.
Okay. It's like, why don't you live like that in the normal? Like, why don't you look like that every single day? Like, this was success. This just built to my hypothetical, like, 18-inch arms in 2 years from now.
Right.
And your lives 2 years from now will all be 18-inch arms. Like, that's just the way it is.
What is your day-to-day?
I was just gonna ask
Yeah,
that.
what is your day-to-day now?
What's
what's
winning
your
for you in a day?
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what's your 2 year? What do you have in the future that you're doing day-to-day now to get there?
I mean, my practice and what I do, and I teach, like I work with professional sports teams on performance, and I practice this really. It's something I practice every day now. And I'll use a sports team. I'll use an NBA team. Let's say the Clippers.
Okay.
They're incredibly high-level professional basketball players on game day, the highest level. Okay. On practice day, they are doing it at the highest level. They practice as hard as they do on the game. And there's a reason for that, right? If you practice at a certain level, it's easier to get in that level when you get in the game.
Right.
Except for when they go home or away for the weekend or on their week off or whatever it is, down goes their performance as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as someone who has a recreational day, a weekend, as someone as they're out having fun, as they're playing, like they're average. They're just average people. They're not winning. They're not doing that at the highest level. So guess what? Then it comes, it's practice day or game day. They got to ramp back up, right? And that's not success. That's harder to do. And like I ask people when I'm on stage, like, have you ever had the greatest, most productive day in your life? Like, think about that day where you were just so productive. Like, did you need to improve skill-wise of that, or do you just need to do that more consistently? And that's sort of the key to life. It's like not, you know how many NBA players can do what Kobe Bryant did and Michael Jordan and LeBron James physically once or twice or a couple times in a game? Not very many of them do it every single night. And that's the difference. You don't need more skill. You don't need to improve yourself. You need to do what you do best more often. Okay, so back to your question. So what I do is I practice trying to be at a high level in anything in any moment I do. And I look for situations that I can have my own little contest where if there was a prize at the end of this, if we went out to dinner tonight somewhere and there was a prize at the end for who had the best interaction with a waitress, okay? and they were going to give a $1,000 prize and a trophy. And you were going to be on the Today Show the next morning, and they were going to talk to you about how you won this year's title of the best interaction with a waitress. How would you act? Like, what would you do? What would your body be like? Would you be speaking softly and slow, and slowly with your shoulders slouched, or would you be big smile and would you have your chest out? Like, I can see you guys doing it just thinking about it, right?
Right.
And if you went into that moment, not only would you make her super happy to be a great moment, but you'd feel like, oh God, I just won. Like I am going to win best waitress interaction day, right? Okay. So that's one.
Are we
that's
doing
one
that?
moment.
No.
That's what I mean, right?
Right.
And I'm telling you, like tonight, I'm making the guys dinner on my fancy, Benihana grill that I have outside. And
Steak and shrimp.
yeah.
Can't
and
wait.
like, I do it at a high level. I'm going to try to win like you guys. And they're going to be like, man, that was awesome. Whether you think it or not it's what I feel. Right. I will feel like, man, those guys drove all the way out here to see me, and I crushed it. I crushed it for them.
Right.
And that feels good. My wife wants to go shopping, and she wants to go to the mall, one of the places I hate almost more in the world. I don't want to do that, right? Like, but I will say, like, okay, if there's a prize for the greatest husband at a mall shopping for 3 hours, how would I act? And it's just like, Tom Brady probably doesn't want to go to practice and bust his ass at the same level he does on the field, but he knows if I put the time in, it will result in something great later. Yep. You might not want to just do endless curls over and over again, but if you put the time in, your arms are going to grow. And so I'll go try to win every situation. And when people ask me, don't you ever take a day off? I'm like, yeah. And I do it at a really high level. Like when I sit by the pool and do nothing, I'm like a champion.
And so you're setting intentions
Yes.
ahead of time with every activity, not just business.
And it's like, listen, you can't do it all day, every day. And there's a lot of coaches and people that will tell you like to just think better and all that stuff. And one of them is one of my mentors. But I'm just, like I said, I'm almost a caveman. Like I'm pretty basic. So I have a couple routines that I do. Every morning I go see the horses. And as I'm coming back, I just stop and be like, okay, if there was a contest, who could appreciate their sort of moment the most? Like, what would I be like? And I walk across the grass. And I'm just like, I can't believe I live here. I can't believe after all I've been through, like, this is my house. This is ridiculous. And every time I get in my car, it's like I do the same thing. Because if you live in LA long enough, you hate your car because it's just what LA traffic and
He's
roads
learning
do,
that as he's driving around
Yeah.
LA. This is his first time on the West Coast.
Yeah.
By the way. Yeah.
So every time I get in that car, I just take one deep breath and I go, I can't believe I own this car. Like, I've wanted this car for as long as I can remember. I never really thought I'd own one, and like, like just that few seconds just makes me go, okay, like that's better, and I feel different, and I'm in the pattern of doing it, and so I just don't have bad days anymore. I don't have off time. I don't have downtime. I speak when I talk to companies. I talk about the idea of work-life integration. There's no work-life balance. There's no downtime. That's just ridiculous. I'm as good as going on a weekend adventure with friends as I ever was in the office. And soon I'm going to be good at all those things as I was as a professional.
What motivates you today? Like, what really, when you wake up, what is like that motivation of, because I know you want to have fun. That's like,
joy is important for me.
Okay. So
and that's where
is that
I'm
what
at
you're
now.
thinking of?
Yeah, my pursuit of joy is kind of like the main thing because I've realized, like you said, it's that moment, and I really enjoy that. So I'll have a couple of ways to do that. I just like doing things well. So I love helping people. I like changing their business. I like taking their muddled, messy message and cleaning it up and having them take it back and realizing how great it is. And they're so excited because it's what they've been living with, and they want to explain it to people so badly. I love that, right? And so it's nice to have the book coming out and to do that because it's like I've been doing it at a pretty high level, and like I don't make a real business out of it. I do, but not at the level I was doing in TV because I just want to do it for people so much. Like I kind of do it for anybody that asks me. So that really motivates me, and I just want to be good at stuff. Like that was what drove me in this country, is like I was finally good at something when I came here. And I just want to be good at things. Like I love that.
So I resonate really strongly with you because you're very mastery driven. It's the process of getting better at something and making that, you're kind of applying mastery to basically your everyday life now, whereas you did a lot of that very narrow focused in business. That's kind of what I'm getting.
Have you always been? Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you apply mastery to all levels of your life? Why is it just at the office?
Exactly.
That's insane.
Yeah. Exactly. Kevin and I talk a lot about how we don't want to just be the best podcasters. We want to be the best human beings we can be.
Yeah.
And that means like all of the facets.
Yeah.
Friendship, like all of it.
It's what would the best version, I say that, what would the best version of Kevin do in this situation?
Right.
Every day.
Well, and
Right.
I have a lot of different examples that I use people in my workbook. You have to go do these things with like something so ridiculously and mundane, like putting gas in your car. Imagine if like the American Idol or The Voice judges were watching and they were going to give a huge prize to somebody at the end of their who had the best time putting gas in their car, who was the best gas filler upper. Like, just look at your
Such an interesting frame.
I
to,
know,
like,
right?
Like the perspective.
But just
it's
look
fire.
at the way your body perks up, the way you guys are smiling, because you're thinking about what you would do in that situation.
Right.
How would you do it? What would you have to do to win that?
Right.
You're only putting gas in for 37 seconds or whatever it is. What would you do? You're not going to do a dance. You're just going to. But even people listening at home, I know they're doing it right now. Their chest just went out. They got a little smile on their face because they're picturing, okay, how would I win that moment if there was judges going to hand a prize out? And the bigger the prize, the more you'd perform. And I do it. I like I said, basketball players walking up a set of stairs. I'm giving a prize for whoever walks up the stairs, whoever owns this the most. And like everything about the way they walk, talk, act, look changes. Just thinking there's a win there.
How often are you're doing this periodically? Let's say it's a given day.
Yes.
Brant, you're just going through your day. How many intentions are you setting from that perspective throughout the
It
day?
started out where I was doing like 1 or 2 a day, 30 seconds at a time.
Right.
Then I was really enjoying that, so I tried to get up to like 10, and I was trying to do that more often. Now what I find is it's almost natural.
Okay.
So the only time I'm really setting the intentions now is if something is bugging me. If something's bothering me or I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm not feeling it, then I'll specifically do it because it's like, okay, that reminded me the feeling of how much better it is to feel awesome and winning than it is feeling like this sucks today or I'm not happy or I'm overwhelmed. And like, it's a challenge right now, with the book promotion and all this stuff I'm doing is like, ooh, hey, guess what? I'm having to go back to the grind. Not so happy about that. But so I'm having to focus a little bit more of like, ooh, man, I just spent the last hour kind of in my own head, grumpy guy. And then I'll have to make something specific to try to get myself out of it. But it's the practice.
Right.
It's the performance. I mean, and people who know me would tell you, like, I'm just always on like that.
Have you always been this mastery driven in terms of wanting to be good at things?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I wanted to...
Where did that become, do you think?
From failure. From failure and rejection and not fitting in and not being accepted and not being appreciated. And that was Canada for me. That was my entire life. I spent every day not fitting in.
Can we go into
And
what it was
trying
like
so
to live
hard.
there for you? Because I remember you telling us on the first episode something along the lines of feeling like you didn't fit in there.
No.
But you felt like California, LA would be like, your people.
It's a different culture. Like, I know we're very close. Countries are very close. The border is not very far away. We have all, Canada has all the same TV. We have a lot of same similarities, but there's just a different culture there. And, making it big and coming up with different ideas and doing things differently is not really as culturally normal as it is here. And so I was always the doofus that had these big ideas that was like, that's just dumb. Like, what a douche. Like, it was just so much of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's never going to work. And it's just like I always get close and it would almost work. And I didn't have the commitment. I didn't have the backing. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have all those things to just play on potential and ideas. And so it was like swimming upstream every second of every day.
And you didn't have the people around you to support your ideas.
No, it wasn't
right? So
like
it
that.
felt-
There's no. They don't even know what that meant.
What
do you mean
would you-
support the ideas? Like, to do what? What are you doing? Why would you do that?
Well,
It
so-
doesn't make any sense.
For any of the listeners out there right now who are in an environment of people that are not as maybe in that other sort of culture,
Which a lot of them are.
Right.
Yeah.
Which a
what
lot
would
of them
you
are.
what advice would you give them?
Your place is somewhere.
Okay.
There's a place that you will fit in, and I talk a lot about situational doubt versus self-doubt.
Oh,
And they're two very different things.
interesting.
Situational doubt is the gut instinct you have about things, people, situations, maybe some history that you're researching that you're nervous about. Self-doubt is basically your mind telling you, don't leave the cave. There's a saber-toothed tiger out there that wants to eat you.
Right.
And so that now in 2020 is basically telling you you're not enough, you're not good enough, people won't like you, you shouldn't do this, you need more credit, you need more credibility, you need to get another client, you need to win something else, you need to go back to school, like, you're not ready for this. Like, that's what your brain is telling you basically 24 hours a day, right? And so you'll go to the Tony Robbins of the world to help sort of deal with that and be like, don't self-doubt, get rid of that.
Right.
The problem is that Tony is a professional at that, okay? Whereas celebrities, that are telling you that you can do anything, and Lady Gaga gets up and wins an Academy Award and tells you like, don't listen to no, and you just got to push through because everybody didn't want me, and I had to work so hard. And you're like, that's one of the greatest singers in the world, and she had a really rough time. So why are you telling people that probably aren't that good of a singers to just keep going because they'll make it? That's insane. And the problem is that, and Tony really helped me with this. He's a very good friend and he's awesome at this kind of world, but he helped me quiet the self-doubt. So I wasn't questioning whether I was good enough to go write the book or to be an expert in these fields. But I could then hear the situational doubt about things in my life, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, what's a good idea, what's not a good idea. Because a good idea is not necessarily a good opportunity.
Interesting.
And sometimes you got to listen to no, and you got to listen to that isn't a good idea, and that isn't a good opportunity, and that won't work, and you're going to have too many hurdles, too long of a walk for such a little giggle, right? And you can't hear that doubt if you're hearing all the other self-doubt as well.
How do you know the difference
I was gonna say,
between situational doubt? Because I agree with you. Like, if I wanted to be in the NBA at this point in my
Right.
life, it's like, that's not smart.
That's not smart.
Right. It's just not an intelligent choice.
And how do you know who to listen to?
Right.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're enjoying this episode where Alan and myself were lucky enough to sit down in person with the one and only Brant Pinvidic. So the one thing we took away from this event is that full immersion events really, really can change your life. So, as we mentioned in the episode with Joanna De Pena, what is it, January 4th?
January 4th.
January 4th, we are going to kick the new year off the right way. A lot of people set intentions, and then they stick to them for a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month. We want to get you in a room with motivational and inspirational people so you can not only set an intention, but you can make a concrete change in your life. It's going to be in Massachusetts. More details to come.
Folks, full immersion networking events very well might be the greatest success hack possible. We want to do more of them. We want to host more of them. It's everything. Imagine a rock concert, but for success. It's going to change your life because you're going to emotionalize these things and kickstart 2020 off right. One of the other things I wanted to talk about quickly is when we were in Brendan Burchard's Influencer 2019 room, there's 2,300 people in the room. We consistently got into unique groups to talk about different questions. And what we've realized is that Kevin and I are fortunate and blessed to have so much clarity on who we are and who we aspire to be. And that is definitely a common denominator of really successful people. It makes decision-making so easy. So Kevin has a program called the Hyperconscious Mindset that helps you understand who you are today, where you want to be, who you want to be, and the vehicle in which is going to actually get you there. So if that's on the website. If you go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com and click on Programs, you can find it there.
I appreciate the love. I want to be very open and vulnerable and honest. If you are anything like me, you at one point, or maybe you still are afraid of selling yourself or selling your product, being in that room really taught me that a lot of people need what we have.
Right.
And since then, I have doubled and tripled down on the mission, the purpose, and our goals. So because of that event, I now feel comfortable in talking about the program because I think it will bring so much value to you. Again, this is the program I needed when I was at my lowest point, when I didn't have clarity, when I didn't know that I had a purpose, and I didn't know what else I wanted. So I just wanted to share that with you.
It is very well done. I remember being in the other room. He recorded this all in one take and then broke it up into 5 modules. It's simple steps that are actionable, going to change your life.
Speaking of getting actionable and changing your life, should we get back into the episode?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Well, what you'll find is that the self-doubt is actually easy to identify. It really is just that, like, I'm not enough. Anything that tells you you're not enough that's self-doubt. And it's just silly because if you look at your life, you've always been enough. And things get better and you get smarter and you make more money. And like, listen, there are people out there listening who probably have nothing but bad times and everything's gone wrong. And the truth is, I don't know how to help you. Like, some people are just cursed, I guess. I don't know. But for most part, most people continue to do well and get better and strive. And they're so busy looking forward at the future, they don't look back and say like, oh, so everything works out. I guess I don't really have to worry about it, right? And then you can listen to your self-doubt and be like, this isn't the right partner for me. I don't trust this guy. Or this may not be the best location to open a restaurant because the last 5 have failed, right? And I've been in the restaurant business before. Like, you don't want somebody who believes in themselves so much that they think they can make the restaurant work in that location.
Right.
And then they do, and it starts to fail. And instead of bailing out quickly, they run it right into the ground, put every last dollar they've ever had into it because they heard some entrepreneur somewhere that lived in their basement and spent every money and borrowed everything on 57 credit cards and then finally made it. It's like, okay.
Survival. It's survival bias
Yeah.
because statistically, most businesses fail.
Yeah.
A large portion of them within 5 years. What is it? Something like 89%.
Yeah.
Something in this.
And I say consistently to people, you cannot follow my roadmap to success, okay? Because my roadmap to success is messy and it's ugly. And what you're looking at is my highlight reel.
Exactly,
You're looking
yeah.
at my highlight reel for success, and you're looking at like a story. Oh, there's my low point. Oh my goodness, Brant was living in his basement with his 2-year-old child in his parents' basement, and then he's a Hollywood producer. Like, you're seeing the low part. That's fine, but what you're really seeing is you're seeing the highlight reel where it ends up, and you don't know the map, and you can't follow someone else's map to success. You gotta make your own.
Right.
What did
Based on
Holly-
principles
Yeah.
of success,
What
right?
did Hollywood teach you? Like, what did you learn? What were some of the biggest takeaways from Hollywood?
You know, there was a couple of big things, like from what I teach in the book, and pitching and presenting was probably the biggest, is that people don't want to hear your blathering. That's really what it is. They just want the idea as quickly as possible. They understand things. They operate at a high level. So just give me the basic idea. Tell me how it works. Tell me why you think it's a good idea, and then let's just figure out if we're going to do it or not. Like, that's what they want. And I sort of remember that moment when I was in CBS lobby and out walked Simon Cowell from basically the pitch room. And I was like, oh, and we said hi, and then he was looking behind me, and there's Mark Burnett walked in. And so Mark Burnett's going into the meeting after me. Simon Cowell just went in before me. So I start to panic a little bit because I'm actually pretty young, like a junior like producer at that time. And I just realized, like, and I'm junior to those two today, but I just realized, like, oh my God, like, the president of the network is not going to be impressed by anything I say or do or try to entertain him or try to sway him or anything. Like, Mark Burnett's coming in after me. Like, this sucks, right? And Simon Cowell just like this. I'm in trouble. So I went into that room thinking, okay, I'm just gonna tell them the idea as quickly and cleanly as possible. Tell them the parts that I really like, and then I'm getting the hell out of here, right? And I went in and I just basically did that. Okay, here's how the show works. We do this, and this is why I think it's great, and we have these, and we've attached these people, and whatever it was. And I was out. It was about a 15-minute meeting, and it went incredibly well. We sold the show. And I remember thinking, like, wow, like, I should maybe do that more often because that was really effective. And so I started to do that. I started to just be like, okay, here's the idea. And I was really clean and clear about what the idea is, how it works. Here's my sort of facts, figures, logic, and reason of why I'm here today and what it works like. And here's how we'd actually make it. I'm out of here. Goodbye. And I quickly got this reputation of, like, this guy does the best pitches. And he's so dynamic in a room. And I was like, I'm not really doing a lot. I'm not working all that hard in the sense of, like, writing all these amazing things. Like, I'm just laying it out there. And so Hollywood taught me that. And you'd think that it's all like, hey, let's do lunch. And it's all floofy. But it's like, ooh, it's a very high level, sophisticated business. And there's just no room for fluff. So that taught me that, which really helped. And then on a personal note, it really taught me the fact that if you don't define what success is to you, you just will never get it. Because everybody I know that's more successful, which is a lot of people, they're just still working. And they go to the office, and that's what they love. Don't get me wrong. They love it.
Right.
But that's what they love. They don't love going jet skiing on the weekend. They don't love having people to the house for dinner. Like, those things don't exist at the same level. And I watched that happen with dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And I just realized I just didn't want to do that.
So you had a really powerful story in the backseat of a car, listening to, basically talking about how cool it would be to be doing what someone else in the NFL was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And can you tell that story briefly? Because I think that's one of the
man.
best articulations.
That's a
of,
good
of
one.
This.
I'm going to remember that.
It's
Because
absolute
that one's
fire.
got
Yeah, the lesson is powerful on that.
So I got a chance to work with the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers, and the president and I became friends after working together, and we were developing the show, and they were coming down to Los Angeles, and we were going to pitch the show. It's a really cool moment, especially for me and my partner, who was a ridiculous Green Bay fan, like part owner, like just crazy fan, right? Loves the NFL. I'm a big fan of the NFL now because moving to this country, you just kind of have to join into that, and I'm just I just love it. And for me, they're like the holy grail, right? It's like the top of the food chain in the media world and everything about them. So they come down, we get the big stretch SUV that we're rolling around, and we packed all the pitch meetings into like basically one day. We're going to go meet all the major networks, pitch the thing, somebody's buying the show, off we go. So when we were in there, I was in the seat with my partner Todd, and we're just like, oh my God, could you imagine what it would be like to be running an NFL team? Like every Sunday you're going to a new game, and it's like every week you're looking at new players. And it's like, this would be the greatest job ever. Oh my God, that would be so amazing, right? And so we were just like fantasizing about how cool it would be to be in the NFL and running a team and all the things you think of. And then we were pitching. We did pitch the show. Went really great. We went to lunch, and we were in the seat, and we were just like sitting back there, and I could hear Parag and Maury talking, and they were like, could you imagine if this was your job? You're rolling around having lunch in LA, you're pitching shows, coming up with ideas, sitting in the boardroom, coming up with things, you're selling TV shows, you're making people. And I was just like, oh my God. Are you telling me there's no green grass anywhere? Like,
right.
Like, and that is the absolute truth. Like, everybody's grinding. Like, if you see somebody that has a job that you think would be amazing, trust me, it's not. Because if you can get the job, it's not fun. And one of the biggest, most powerful women in this town said that to me one time when I was asking her, like, hey, are you going to get the president of Fox job? Like she was the chairman of the studio, and now it's like, are you going to be the president of the network? She's like, oh my God, that's a terrible job. And for me, I was like, what? That's a terrible job. It sounds like the greatest job ever.
Right.
And it was that was the thing. It's like, if you're qualified and you can get that job, you don't want it. Like, that's not the job you want, because it's a grind and it's work. It's always the ones that you can't get, the ones that you think are so amazing, the one that you're not quite qualified for, that you think are going to be that dream job. Well, those don't exist.
What's the green grass for you now? So we were talking about Reject Average.
Yeah.
And how you do the most ridiculous things
I do.
ever of all time. I think I would say you're probably the best at having fun.
I'm working on it. I'm a semi-professional still.
Okay.
I got a lot of work to do still. But
So we talked about that in the first episode, but it has evolved a lot from my understanding of what I've seen. So what
Just
is
a
your
year.
green grass now? Like, what are you chasing?
I am chasing the ability to squeeze as much joy into a day as I possibly can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with the Reject Average Travel and Adventure Club, I do it as a nonprofit through my foundation, and I basically try to take executives and people on really high-level, fun, outrageous adventures, not like adrenaline stuff, but just fun, out-of-the-box, cool stuff. And it takes people out of their comfort zone, and it sort of shocks them into the idea that you can just have so much fun and excitement from doing these cool things. And what I realized is that most people, unless they get an invite to do something, aren't doing it.
Right.
And like I said to you guys, like, who wouldn't want to go jet skiing? Like, you guys have never been jet skiing. It's mostly because people don't invite you to go.
Right.
And if people had been inviting you to go, you probably would have gone by now, right? And so I just realized as I was, listen, it's a midlife crisis, right? There's a little bit of that for me. It's like, I have a red sports car. My wife's built like an 18-year-old. So it's like, okay, well, like, what am I going to do in my midlife crisis? And for me, it was like, I'm just going to go have fun and do cool things. And what I realized was, like, okay, well, no one's inviting me to do fun and cool things. Like, so if I don't invite people to go, like, nobody's going to be there. My kids are getting older. They don't want to go do fun things anymore. They've done lots of that, and they're just like, oh, geez. So it was kind of like, I need more playmates. So how do I get people to come play with me? Well, like, I'll put the thing together. Like, I want to go jet skiing to Catalina Island. Like, I'll put it together. And then you guys just come and play with me. And just, it evolved into that, where it's like, that's still what drives me. Is like, ooh, I get to put the whole thing together, and then people want to go. And then I'm the guy who puts it together, and people like that. And that's a big win for me. So I'm trying to do that on a broader scale. I'm now branching that out into what I call the Executive Experience Series, where I'm bringing sort of high-level performers, high-level executives from various industries together to share a common goal of having fun and adventure, but also like share some of their struggles and the issues and the bonding and some of the lessons they've learned being a high performer without a lot of peers to have those conversations with.
It's interesting for us because, like, so you invited us to your house, right?
Yeah.
And I'm already thinking in my mind, afterwards we're going to be eating. You said you were going to chef it up for us. I'm sure that our guards will be much lower because we're comfortable and it's an experience.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what'll come from that. Just the lessons that you've already mentioned, like, this is fun. This is very fun for me right now. So you're doing a hell of a job.
Well, and I like, that's the thing. When I invited you guys, I was like, I know you guys will have fun. You'll dig the house. We'll hang out, like, and then I'll put on a show, and like, I'm doing that specifically because I know how much fun it will be for you. It's like, and that kind of brings me some joy, right? Like, and that's kind of cool. And so I'm trying to make that as fulfilling as selling a TV show used to be.
Right.
And that takes a little practice. It's not just, you can't just naturally do it. That's why people who retire die. Because
Right.
they retire and then they can't get joy, fulfillment, excitement, like encouragement, feel successful in anything else. They just like, they try to do it in golf and then they just die. And that's
They try to do it
all
in
the time.
golf. Exactly.
Right.
One of the interesting things too is not only are they comfortable and their guards are down, but when you're facilitating these fun, unique experiences for people, it's like you have the common denominator of a shared experience with someone. So now you feel like you know them on a deeper level. And like you said, the conversations that happen, the ideas that come of that. I'll never forget one of my mentors. He was the old CEO of iRobot and then Astrodyne and several other companies, big tech companies. He said, Alan, you can't schedule innovation.
Right.
And now that we have our phones, we're always on our phones when we could be thinking of these new ideas. And so you take people, immerse them in this full experience, and then ideas just come of that.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. It's been, and it wasn't, like I said, I didn't set out to do that. It just happened over a course of a couple of the big adventures. You just realize like, ooh, hey. And the guys would say like, this was amazing, but just meeting those guys and hanging out with them, it was as good. You know, it was like a huge part of it as well. And I was like, oh, I could probably combine some more of these things like that.
I had a breakthrough, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like your purpose used to be focused on business, and then the fun was a byproduct. Now your purpose is fun, and the business is a byproduct?
Yeah. And listen, I want to make sure I couch that with a bit of a warning. Like, you can't just do that. You can't just change your focus.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you guys need to keep grinding.
Yeah.
You're young.
Yeah.
You're in your prime. Like, don't do what I'm doing yet.
Okay.
Because that is a difficult, it's like being on a train, right? And like, you want to get as far down the track as you can, but still get off in time to enjoy things, right? And if you get off too early, then you're the whitewater rafting guy who's 42 years old, who has no money and doesn't like, but he loves whitewater rafting. By the way, if you can make that happen, that's amazing.
Right.
But the other way is you stay on the train too long, and then you're the 59-year-old guy who like doesn't have the body anymore and wants to kind of go do stuff. And now you've been spending 40 some odd years grinding, and that's all you know for enjoyment, you know? And like, I've spoken with Warren Buffett. He is a happy person. Okay. But he's only happy doing one thing. Now, you might be okay with that. I would not be okay with if that was my only thing to be happy. And he may be just as happy as I am in the moment when I'm in the mountains of Whistler fishing or skiing or whatever I'm doing. Like, he might be just as happy watching a stock go up or doing a return. That happiness, you can't quantify that way. But I don't want to get my happiness from the office. And to be fair, I kind of stopped being able to get it from there as easy. And maybe if I was getting it in the office and working in TV as much as I was originally or continuing, I wouldn't be here talking with you guys.
Right.
Wouldn't have the book, wouldn't be doing all this stuff.
So I was going to say, how do you know? Because we all have bad days at work, right?
Yeah, of course.
How do you know when it's like this? It's time for me to live an actual life of chasing fulfillment. Like, a lot of people just want to travel and take pictures. Like, that would make them super happy, but they never do it.
They never do.
And even if they did it, they wouldn't. What if it didn't make them happy?
Yeah,
Right.
And again, I wanted, like, this is a warning out there. If you're easily swayed, like,
Right.
don't
I'm ready
quit
to
your
trade it all
job
in.
yet, right? Because I'm not even kidding. I have had that happen like at least 3 times now, where somebody comes out to the house because I don't travel into the center of LA very much anymore to do lunch or take meetings.
Understandable.
It's great. It's a new thing about not having a job. You don't have to go in and meet people. But and so I've been getting a lot of calls from peers and people that I've worked with saying like, "Hey, oh, it's so great. Hey, can I come out and talk to you? I just want to hang out." And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna drive to Santa Clarita? Okay, sure." And then they basically are in this quandary where it's like, usually it's television because the television industry is having a bit of a struggle right now, and they see what you guys see and they want to know, like, should they do it? And I've had a couple of people where I kind of like talked off a ledge a little bit, right? And I was like, well, damn it, this is kind of what Tony Robbins did to me, right? Like, I grabbed my goldfish Jerry Maguire and be like, I'm out of here, you know?
Right.
And so it's hard to not get people fired up about this stuff. And like, and you know, when I'm talking to them, I'll be like, you know, you have enough money. You're talking like a poor person. Like, you have enough money. Like, what are you going to do with the extra money? And that's where I got to, where it's like, wait a minute, like, all I'm doing is chasing money. Like, that's it. That's all I was doing the job for. And it wasn't money I was going to spend. It was like going to go at the end of the bank account, like at the top of the funnel, where it's like, when am I going to get to that money? Like, what is my thought? I'm going to just keep stacking it up there, and then one day I'm just going to stop everything and then just start funneling it out. Like, that doesn't, who does that? Nobody. So I just decided, like, okay, I'm ready. And if I never make another penny, if it never gets better than this, I'm 100% okay with that. And that takes a little bit to get used to. There's a little bit of like, you got to really train to get in that mode.
Fear
And
of
I still
missing
have to work at it.
Right.
I still work at it because there are times when I'm like, whoa, like, ooh, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to do that? Or I'll see something and be like, oh, damn it. Like, I don't have a private jet. Never going to have a private jet. I'm not on a path to get one. I could have deluded myself last year and thought I kind of was on one technically, maybe. Really, I wasn't. But I could have told myself I was, and maybe that drove me. But now, so there's a little bit of those moments where it's like, okay, I gotta get myself back in the grind of like, okay, well, I just need to have fun. Like, what? It's not going to do any good. Like, the amount of effort and work I would do to have to make enough money to get a private jet, I wouldn't enjoy it if I got it. And I will tell you, the people that own private jets are not happy with the jet they have. They want the bigger one, and they want the better one. Because unless you have that drive day in and day out, you won't get to have a private jet.
Right. I've
You
had
need
multiple
that
mentors
thing.
that are millionaires tell me that.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
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 And it's like everybody that I know that has a jet wants a bigger one. And it's just like just like
I've
I
heard
was with
that
my cars before.
Literally 2 other times
Yeah.
from personal.
Has your
mentors.
circle changed since your ambitions and intentions and
Yes, but not because of this. Like what we're talking about on the podcast today, like is new for me. It's surprising that everybody wants to talk to this. I find it with my coaching clients. Like I start coaching them on how to pitch and present and simplify their message and strategize their business, and we end up in this mode. Right. You know, what I mean? And they end up on the boat tuna fishing kind of thing, right? So this is all new and different, and so my circle expanded exponentially once I started working in the small cap public company in the investment space, and being able to change the trajectory of companies. That opened things up where I started to realize, ooh, there's a big world out there. And TV's a very small, insular world. And yeah, entertainment's cool and everything, but I've seen just a different side of the world now because I can go into a company that's struggling to get their message across the way they want. They don't understand why people don't get it the way they get it. And really quickly, like the way I break out a television show, I can find the value. I can lay it out. I can piece it together and put it back together in a way that they can tell anybody and explain it to anybody and have them understand it the way they do. And that's just like, it's really, really
Are
exciting.
you doing tech companies? Because I feel like
I
they
do a lot
struggle
of
with
tech,
this
yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole
biotech
nother
is
world,
probably
huh?
a big one for me. Biotech, life sciences, those guys are like, they're scientists effectively, and they need tons of money.
Yeah.
And oil and gas guys, there's a lot of oil and gas exploration that needs lots of money in the small cap world, and tech's pretty important too.
Right.
But for me, being one step from being a caveman, being so crazy ego driven, and I'm super insecure, and I'm kind of narcissistic, like I'm all those things rolled into one, having somebody tell me that I changed their life is addictive. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, yeah, I want to do that, and I'm into that mode, but I do it a lot of times because I love the way I feel. I like being important to people, and that's like, that's okay if that's what drives you. I say, like, yeah, being altruistic, oh yay, that'd be great. I do it because the first time I got a voice message from a guy saying, "You changed my life. My wife wants to meet you. I'll never be the same thanks to you." I was like, holy crap, no network president ever said that to me. I got to get some more of that.
Well, that's the fulfillment piece.
Yeah, we're all looking for significance.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, we're all searching for how can I be significant
Yeah.
to this person or this group of people. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're honest about it.
Right.
Because that's one of the, I love getting those messages. I
Yeah,
love
of
when people
course.
say, he's a great dude. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
I do it. So I love that you went there with it.
Yeah, and it's been hard for me to separate the business side of that from the personal side of that. I spent the last year in this sort of honeymoon of like, I'm out of my TV job effectively. The book promotion didn't start till basically a week ago. So I was just kind of out there, and I just basically said yes to everything. And anybody who wanted help with anything, I would go and meet with them and travel and hang out. And like, sometimes I'd bill them for stuff. Sometimes I wouldn't if they couldn't afford it. I couldn't care. I just wanted to do it. And it was, I wanted to help people, but I also loved being important and loved being the key to their success. So now I'm a little bit more focused on like, okay, I can get that in lots of other charitable ways, and I have a whole foundation that I can do, and I can run a business if I really want to run a business. And so it's allowed me to be a little bit more selective. And now I focus on the high school stuff that I do, which I'm more excited about in that sense than helping every other business that comes along.
So from a lot of the people listening, you're a huge financial success, business success, and now fulfillment and joy success. I kind of want to dig a little bit into the way you were when you were younger, what your dreams were, because you said this is beyond what you ever thought was possible for you.
Yeah.
Can we you're kind of like a living example of what's possible, even if you didn't initially. I always have had huge dreams. So my smallest dream was to be a Fortune 50 CEO. That eventually shifted once I realized the fulfillment piece wasn't going to be there in corporate America. So we have a similar thing
That's
there.
why I say when they want more women to be CEOs at Fortune 100 companies, I was like, why would you want to put them through that? It's a horrible job. It's a horrible life.
It's interesting.
It's awful.
Right.
I wouldn't want my daughter to do that. Oh my God. I'm praying that she doesn't get that bug because it's an awful life. It's awful. It's like, what's the bonus of it? You have a little bit of money. Well, there's lots of ways to make money.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do with that money? Is you gonna get a bigger TV? Like, our world today is pretty tough to like match. Like, you know, how many big screen TVs do you need? And everybody's got a cell phone, and an iPhone, and a car with power windows, and like, I mean, so the money is kind of cool, but like you can't use it. It's just a bad gig. It's just a bad gig.
When you were a kid, I couldn't agree more because I worked in corporate America and I had a lot of money. Right. So I was headed on that trajectory, and I actually had a car accident that made me realize, like, if that was it, I wouldn't be proud of the man I became. So now we are more focused on our actual growth and fulfillment. So for you, take us back to, you in Canada as a kid, teenager, like what were you like, and then what were your aspirations like, and how did those grow over time?
Mostly I wanted to be accepted and appreciated, and I felt like early on my sort of big charismatic personality wasn't charismatic. It was annoying and class clownish, and I had relatively high level intelligence and communication abilities and really low maturity, and those combined make it rough, right?
Right.
So you want to be the cool kids. You want to hang out with the cool kids. The cool kids don't want to be around that kind of shit. But because, small school and I did relatively well. So I was never quite as cool in school as I wanted to be. Less people liked me than I pretended that people did. Like I knew people who thought I was a doofus, but I would just pretend they didn't think that because I developed that as a defense mechanism.
Right.
And I just wanted to be successful at something and do something well. And I just could not find that thing.
Right.
I'd get close. And I remember very clearly thinking, like, if I could just get something that paid me $2,000 a month, I could live the rest of my life on that. And, my wife was at IBM as a manager, and she was making, I think, $39,000. And I was trying to run various businesses and start up things and do crazy stuff. And I just basically lost anything that I made. And there was a pretty good time where I thought, like, if we can just continue on this trajectory, we'll be fine. We can just stay here somehow, And I was thinking, like, I'd like to do something well, and it just could be huge, but the path wasn't there for me. So it was like really not realistic. I was just trying to find some stability at some point.
One of the things that's
feelings?
so crazy right now, I just had a moment, and I know we have to go soon. So
Yeah, we got 6 minutes.
You have this incredible home. I believe you mentioned a $3 million home, whatever. And this incredible lifestyle, but you mentioned earlier to us in the preamble that you failed so much. And it's interesting because when you look at the highlight reel, you're seeing like the low point that you and then the win. And it's like you're successful, quote unquote, in the eyes of society from every standpoint. Kids, wife, beautiful home. That's awesome.
Yeah, the highlights are there for sure.
Right. So how, like when it comes to failure,
yes.
Like failure is part of the recipe for success, but let's talk like real about that. Like, how do you feel like failure has played a part in your success? Because if someone looks at you now, they think you're successful, but for a long time, didn't it seem like you very much weren't?
And are you still failing?
Yeah, you fail at different things, right? So failure in a business sense, I did that a lot till I moved to the United States.
Okay.
I didn't really have that as much after that, right? Like every year it kind of got better because I was honing my skills and I was where I was meant to be. And the skills that I had developed in life, in business, happened to be applied so brilliantly to pitching and creating TVs.
Right.
Okay, so that's a little bit lucky. But I failed so many times during the process of getting to where I am in this country. You know what I mean? I got a big fancy job at a network, got fired. Didn't do that well.
Right.
I got in it with a big company and couldn't make relationships work. We had to part ways. Like there's just so many of those things that you don't do well. I was supposed to do a TV show with Jewel. We went to dinner. Whatever happened, she hated me at the end of the dinner. My agent called and was like, I don't know what happened there, but she hates you. And I was like, yeah. And so to this day, it still bugs the living crap out of me that I couldn't make that relationship work. And I don't like you either, Jewel. But anyways, so like I could list 100 things that I missed, you know what I mean? Or jobs that I didn't get, or things that I want, or TV shows that I should have made better, or like that just happens consistently, right?
Right.
But when you finally get to the point where you realize like it's not really a burning fire of disaster. It's just whatever. It's fine.
Right.
That changes things for you. Like,
Yeah.
because then you're like, okay. And that was one of the things, again, Tony Robbins did really well for me in that thing is I used to look at the world as pits of disaster, flaming problems that I would navigate my way around. And I would look at the future and I'd see all the problems and the burning fires of issues that were going to be out there that could happen. This could happen. What if this happens? And I plot a course around it. And I've been just really good at plotting a course around it. And now I realize like, oh God, those are all mirages. Like, it's not flaming pits of problems out there. It's opportunity. There's just so much opportunity and the people you meet and the connections you can create. And if you're just open to that, everything seems to come your way much better. And like, yeah, things won't go your way. Like, who cares? It's so temporary in that process.
So many people look at it like you're jumping out of a plane, and if your parachute doesn't open, you're going to die, when you're really jumping off a diving board. And you might do a belly flop, but like you get to swim to the side and do it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I
Stings
used to be
for a
there.
minute, though.
It does. It sucks.
When you belly
Yes,
flop, it stings for a
sucks,
minute.
But I like the way you put
And I
that.
get it. Like, I know where you guys are. I know exactly where I've been there. There are people in your life at the same age as you that have a wife and they have kids and they have tons of money and they're killing it in their job. And you're thinking to yourself like, if I would have just done this and stuck with it, you know what I mean? Like, I know those people. We're everywhere. So, but that's, again, it's a different roadmap and it's not where you are and what you're meant to be doing. And here's the issue is where you think you wish you were right now, if you can't make where you are today like awesome and you're happy about it, when you get there, you're going to feel exactly the way you do now. You're going to feel like you haven't quite made it, that you need more things, that if you could just get there, then you'd be happy. Like, those feelings don't get cured by the things you want. It's just not the way it works. You need to cure them now.
Right.
And then guess what? You'll get the things you want. And then
Yeah.
you could actually appreciate it, right? And like I was saying to you guys earlier, like, if I was just richer, there's a bunch of things I would do. And I'm working on it where I'm good at making what I have now as a relatively poor person in my world look really great and feel really great, and I'm maximizing it. So if I got a couple more $1 million, I'd be able to use it, and I'd actually get some more joy out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, like, if I gave you $1 million today, you would have like a rush of a hit of it or whatever, and then in 3 months, 5 months, whatever it is, you'd be right where you are now. You might have a different car or a different thing or whatever. Some of your issues might be alleviated, but you'd find new issues to fill that gap. 100%.
Right.
And I'm working on that.
We can test it out if you
Yeah,
want.
we can test it out.
All right, so we're coming up against it. I want to talk about your book to make sure.
Oh, yeah. That's basically kind of what I need to do.
Right.
So let's talk about this. Tell the listeners about it and why it is so important to you. I know you went into it a little bit, but also for the listeners, we're going to have it on our website under books, so you can buy it straight from our website.
Yes, please. I need the help here. The book's called The 3-Minute Rule, and it's everything I learned about sort of pitching and presenting in Hollywood applied to anything in life. Anything you do, you're pitching or presenting yourself or your business or your idea or your product. This will show you literally step by step how to put it in a form that anybody can understand. We all make decisions by rationalizing them. It doesn't matter. You rationalize what you wear for the day or why we go to war or if you're going to kill your wife. Like, those decisions are rationalized. And the 3-Minute Rule shows you how to put those decisions in a format that I can make my pitch mimic the way you're going to make that decision. That's sort of the basic of it. And 3 minutes is a sort of a scientific magic number that if you can pitch and present and lead your audience with a story, you can get them to hold off making a decision whether they want to engage for about 3 minutes if you get lucky. And as anybody listening knows, like, they've had people come to try to pitch or sell or present them or ask them something, and they know if they're going to say yes or no in the first 10 seconds.
Right.
And this book will help extend that period long enough so that you can actually get your valuable information in it. And so the book seems to be pretty good. People do seem to like it who've read it so far, so that's pretty exciting. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited for people to have it, and I know it has really good effect on people. I've got a lot of great messages, and you see on the back lots of good quotes, and people seem to have, so I'm really excited to share it. Really excited.
Go ahead.
Folks, for the listeners, first of all, this has been incredible.
Right.
Thank you for doing this again. Number 2, I think that was about 3-minute pitch there at the end, so note that. But also, we set the intention to get our messaging more clear because people ask us all the time. First of all, how did you guys meet? Is a question you keep getting.
And I always say one of my first kisses was in Alan's basement playing Spin in the Bottle. And they're like, you didn't kiss
I think
him,
you guys
right?
make a cute couple. So.
right. He's like, there were girls there though.
Yeah, there were girls. I promise.
Just to clarify. But we are gonna definitely dive into this book.
Yes.
And it's gonna help us get our message more clear. To help more people.
Where can people become part of the Reject Average crew?
So, a couple of ways. 3-Minute Rule has 3minuterule.com has pretty well everything and every way to connect to me. I'm at all the social things at Brant Pinvidic, so I'm easy to find. And rejectaverage.com is an easy one to sort of find as well. So I reply to lots of messages. I love to talk to people. I like to help people. I'm sort of in that mode, and I'm in that hashtag will work for book. So if you want something from me, like, I'm making dinner for these guys, you just got to buy some books. That's it. It's my new thing. So
we appreciate it.
I'd like to win at that. So it was #1 new release on Amazon on its first week. So that's pretty cool.
Strong work.
And we'll see how it does when it hits full release. But,
like Alan said, it's amazing. This has been an amazing experience for us. It was super fun. I appreciate you taking the time
we should do this as an ongoing series.
I
Let's
would
come back.
I would love to.
Come back when you're ready.
Right,
Yes.
let's do it. One thing I learned from you, the last thing I'll say here, 10-second blip is,
here we go.
I learned this from the first episode. You said the grass is greener where you water it, I believe is what you said.
Yeah, I can say that.
So that's the takeaway that I took from today for sure. So water the grass where you feel the most fulfilled. The last thing I want to do is set the intention to at some point do one of these crazy adventures.
Oh,
with
the
you, which
intention
is
is
awesome.
set.
Yeah.
The intention is
You
set.
guys are on the invite list now.
Let's go.
There's a few
Let's go.
rules to that, though. It means you can't cancel on me. There's a few things.
Okay.
You can get rejected from the Reject Average Club pretty fast.
Okay, we'll
sounds
talk.
good.
We'll talk details offline.
It's pretty funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, follow Brant. He's a great dude, and we appreciate your time, my friend.
Right on, boys. Anytime.
Shrimp and steak.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode with Brant Pinvidic. Up next, we have a 5-minute clinic on clarity. Like we have mentioned in the past few episodes, when we were in California for Brendan Burchard's event, we realized very quickly that we are blessed and lucky, honestly, to have the level of clarity that we have surrounding our dreams, our goals, and our ambitions. And we want to make sure that you guys have the highest level of clarity possible as well.
The more clear you are on your target, the more likely you're going to hit it. And then the thing is, think about someone who has no idea who they are, no idea what they want, no idea how to get there. And even if they did get there, quote unquote, would they even know they were there? It's like shooting an arrow up in the air, hoping it lands someplace nice. Do not do that. Get clarity. This episode is going to help you tremendously understand who you are at the deepest level and who you want to become and how to bridge that gap.
We will talk to you on Monday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.